why not go for it? Why not go for it? I think that's something that we espouse. And, we've had kids take big swings and in big moments and miss. Mm-hmm. The state championship 4 years ago, we scored as many points as the team that beat us. We just didn't score them in the right moments. Mm-hmm. But we were up there taking a whack at it in the moment we needed to. And maybe messages for parents are very similar. And I hope that they recognize I'm not picking on them, but their job is to pick them up from practice and feed them and get them rested and get them to bed and bring them back the next day so we can push them really, really hard again.
Right.
This is the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. Here's your host, Hall of Fame coach, Janice Kruger.
Welcome to the Leave It Better podcast. Today, my guest is Roger Anderson. He is the head coach at Westborough High School in Massachusetts. He is a Hall of Fame coach. He is a 3-time-in-a-row state volleyball champion with his program. He teaches wellness for the school. He's been there for 26 years, and he has a very fun starting story about coaching. And I did run into a couple other things about why you even started coaching way back when you were a sophomore in college, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Welcome to the show, Roger.
Thanks so much. Sounds like you did your research.
Yeah. I have so much fun looking things up, and you have had so much success there with your players, and I'd love to hear what you consider your philosophy of coaching, because there's things that I see that I think might be in there, but I'm going to let you tell us about what that is.
Yeah, I mean, the number one goal of everything I do professionally is to have a positive impact on young people's lives. I mean, that my life was impacted by some really great coaches along the way, but, I want to have a positive impact. We want to, have the kids in our program grow to be great people. I'm sort of a big fan of John Wooden, and the way that, he was a philosopher coach and his goal, and I think mine the same, to develop great young people, give them some opportunities to grow in the skills that they can use for the rest of their life. Hopefully they become a part of something that's bigger than them so that they, recognize that opportunity. And I think learning to work really, really hard and have joy at the same time is the ultimate goal for that. I think when those two things come together, that's when the magic happens. And, we certainly want to have them do well in the sport that we coach, but it's clearly a vehicle to who they're going to become for the rest of their lives for us.
Yeah. You got started coaching volleyball. I believe you were a track coach or a track athlete at Tufts University. There was an injury that happened to you that took you out of that track situation when you were in college, and you started doing some assistant coaching.
Correct.
You've had kind of an interesting start. And I read somewhere within the articles that I found that you said those teams that you coached early on should maybe get their money back, because you went into, I think you had 2 days to, once you accepted the job, you're like, it starts in 2 days.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to that. I think the funny thing that isn't maybe known is so I was a track athlete at Tufts University back in the early 1990s. And in my sophomore year, I tore my ACL, but I did it playing intramural volleyball, which I probably should not have been doing at the time. I think the coach was very kind to me, but he was not too happy about it, because I was a pretty okay track athlete. So fast forward to 1999, I recovered from that injury, didn't run competitively in college again, but sort of fell in love with coaching by following my college coach, Connie Putnam, around for my last 2 years there. And I thought at the time I would become a college track coach, because I thought what he did and the impact he had on me was just awesome. And he said, if you're going to do that, you might as well do it right. So go get a physical education degree from Springfield College, as it happened. Took me 3 years because I had none of the prerequisites. So I had to sort of grind my way through every skills course. And, volleyball was one of those. And I ended up continuing playing, like doubles beach volleyball in the summertime. And the AD at Westborough High School, I was hired to teach in fall of 1997 and started coaching track later that year, which actually I still do. But in summer of 1999, I believe it was August 23rd, the AD at the time called me up and he said, "Hey, how's your summer been?" And I said, "It's been a great summer. We're doing really well." He said, "Did you play any volleyball?" I said, "Yeah, I played a couple tournaments with my buddies." And I thought I was okay at volleyball, but based on what I know now, I was absolutely horrible. And I said, "Why do you ask?" He said, I think I need a volleyball coach." And I thought, okay, you need an assistant coach. Maybe I can help you out. And I said, "What do you need?" He said, "I need a varsity coach." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, the varsity coach hasn't called me back all summer. I'm up a creek." And I said, "Well, when does it start?" He said, 2 days. So I said, I need to make 2 phone calls. Let me call you right back. So I called my wife and she said, "Oh, that sounds like fun. Go for it." And so, it's had a huge impact on our life. And then I called another friend of mine and I said, "Hey, you played high school volleyball. You know what a practice might look like, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, can you come help me run one in 2 days?" And he said, "Sure, let's go for it." So, that's how it started. And literally those first few practices were, I'm a teacher by profession. So I know how to teach, but boy, did I not know anything about volleyball, more than just, here's the basic skills. And, so I spent a lot of time learning, and those first couple teams should probably get their money back if they paid anything. And I think if we won, and we won a little bit in those early years, it was purely based on enthusiasm. We were just going to work harder and have more fun than the other team. So that's how it began.
Yeah, I would love to see the video of those first couple of days.
I have some, and
Do
no, you
really?
wouldn't. No, you wouldn't.
So I think that's really cool. That could be a little scary, maybe frighten you, like might not choose to do that because you really put yourself out there in a way. And I believe that's probably, even to this day, some of the lessons you might be teaching your players too, but just no fear and do your best.
Yeah, big moments deserve big swings. And when somebody needs a little help, you step up and you go for it and you help them to the best of your ability. That's sort of where, that's how I saw that opportunity. And boy, has it had an impact on my life and my family's life. And, it's been super, super fun.
Yeah, that's a lot of 26 years of coaching there has taken you through a lot of athletes. Do they stay connected pretty good with the school, with you?
Yeah, many do. And we still, it's so much fun. We actually, we draw pretty good crowds to our games, and we have alumni come back. We have parents of alumni come back, especially when we get to talking about our Dig Pink game. That's the pinnacle of everything we do. I mean, we won a couple state championships, as you mentioned recently, but the most important and best thing we do all year is that Dig Pink match. And we pack the house, and people from all different generations come back, and it's so much fun to see. We did have our 2007 state championship team inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame a couple years ago, and about half the players were able to come back for that induction ceremony, and it was just so cool. And we send each other messages at the holidays and things like that. So it is really fun, and a number of them have come back and coached for me, which is that's just spectacular.
That is a special thing for sure. So let's talk a little bit about Dig Pink. You brought that up, and you and your program there and your community have been so great at supporting us and educating your young ladies about metastatic breast cancer and about doing something bigger than yourself. But can you talk to us? You mentioned that this is a real highlight for the whole community, and you guys really do pull together and have a huge undertaking there.
Well,
Can you
thank you
talk
for
about
that.
that?
We started way back in 2009, and I'm pretty sure it started with an email. I was talking to one of my assistant coaches who actually helped start. Her name is Kylie Murray, and she had lost her aunt to cancer, and her mother was a multiple time survivor of a couple different cancers. And I said, hey, I got this email, like we should be doing something. And she's like, yeah. And she jumped on it. And one of our captains at the time, Alex Sincata, who has now been my JV coach for about 10 years and is a teacher in our school system, so former player, she jumped right on it, and her mom jumped on it. And so that first year we just thought, how can we do something good? Because I think Westborough is a reasonably affluent town, and we feel pretty privileged to have all the opportunities that we do. So how can we make a difference? And so we started back in 2009. We thought it was better to, rather than buying beautiful new pink uniforms, we were just going to get T-shirts and tie-dye them and then give the money to the Side Out Foundation. And our whole hope at the time was to begin to just build community. And we had, at the time, 2 teachers in the building who were cancer survivors. One of them was battling, and we lost her along the way. Since then, we've had, players on our team. I had track athletes. We had, I think we've had 7 or 8 students in our school population that are cancer survivors. And while we know that the money goes to metastatic breast cancer, we're not picky about who we invite and celebrate and who we do. So we have tons of community members and parents, and, we bring in speakers. We've had some of our former student athletes come back who are survivors and talk to our kids about, how to look for things going on in your body and how to advocate for yourself. But it really, our hope is always that we're just building, this ever expanding web of support and connection for people.
Yeah.
Through, what that opportunity provides us.
Yeah. Well, the one good thing, it is, our research is metastatic for breast cancer, but all the findings that we have a database that is free to the public or other oncologists to see. Yep. And maybe it starts something with another type of cancer, which is honestly how we got started at the very beginning. We were able to borrow something from a very famous clinical trial that was probably worth about $10 million at the time.
Wow.
And was given to us. And, so there we progress and we're able to do the kinds of things that we're able to do today. So of all those years, is there any one thing or one time where something surprised you about your event, or maybe someone you ran into or a message that came out of that? Sure.
Well, I lost my mom to cancer in 1992 when I was in college, graduate school, actually, 95. I can never seem to make it through the start of our ceremony. And then my stepmother is a breast cancer survivor, and she's 89 years old, and she has come to our ceremony a whole bunch of times. She lives down on the Cape here in Massachusetts, so it's not too far. But I think just talking to the people who we invite. So we had this year, for example, one of my players said, "Coach, did you know that we have another student who's a cancer survivor?" And I said, no, I'm because we try to ask and not be too intrusive, but we reach out. And I said, "Oh, I know that student. I had no idea." So I just sort of rolled up, and he's one of our sort of non-traditional students. And I checked in with him and I said, "Hey man," I said, "I know you don't like big crowds and things like that, but have I got an opportunity for you? But first tell me what's going on." And he had brain cancer in like first, second, third grade. And I had no idea. And he's not one to brag or anything like that. So I just said, "Hey, I want you to go home. I'm going to send an email to you and your mom. I want you to think about this, and it was like, happened to be 2 days later. I said, "In a couple of days, we got this big thing going on, and I'd love to have you come." I didn't think he'd come at all. And his mom wrote back and said, "What time and where? And we'll be there. We can't wait to come." And to see him stand there and to have him in the pictures and celebrate him, just felt really good. It just felt really good. So those are the types of things we run into, right? I think, we don't necessarily know that that's going to happen, but just because a player knew somebody and reached out, then we, and we're sort of all inclusive. Anybody we hear about, we invite them in. We had an official a few years ago who ended up passing away from her cancer, but we took really good care of her and made sure that we set up the game on a day when she would be there and thanked her. So that's just, to me, it's an awesome opportunity to give back.
Yeah, I like that community approach, really. School community, outside of the school, connectedness. And right, things in life are best with connectedness, right?
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah, we do a lot to just reach out. We sort of, all the kids go around and write on the whiteboards, wear pink on Thursday, and our staff gets on board with it, and our school population shows up, and we do a big bake sale. So there's lots of
Yummy
treats that we wouldn't normally, prescribe at the volleyball match, but it's like, hey, it's a once a year thing, so we can celebrate it together.
Yeah. Well, fun. You've been a very integral part of the Massachusetts Volleyball Coaches Association.
Yep.
Rick has been there many times. He popped in here for just a second to say hi. He's so respectful of what you have done, and then also the Coaches Association there in Massachusetts has been really supportive also of the Side Out Foundation. But there's a specialness about your group. And I don't know. There's a lot of sharing, maybe. Could you talk to us a little bit about the importance that you feel that association does for your volleyball coaches in the state?
Yeah, well, I can go back to how it impacted me. My first couple of years, my first year, we just squeaked our way into the playoffs and then, got beat. And I asked that coach, I said, hey, can we play you in the regular season? Because I want to learn how to, figure out how to play at your level. And the league I was in was not particularly strong. And then the next year, kind of same thing happened. We got a little bit farther, and I asked that coach and got mentored a little bit. But a guy named Rob Slavin was our president of the MAVCA for a long time. He actually was the head of, all high school for the AVCA for a few years.
Okay.
And he just sort of pulled me in and he said, hey, why don't you come to, our Hall of Fame? We're inducting a few guys. And he sort of invested in me. And I learned a lot really fast. And then as we started to get better, I kept trying to learn from the people. But it's always been, from my perspective, an organization that was there to serve all the members. And, if you wanted to come, you could come. I was invited into other people's gyms to see their practices, because, again, I had a lot to learn. And then, fast forward a few years, I just think it's an important organization, and the impact that great coaching can have on kids is significant. The impact that not great coaching can have on kids is also significant. And so if we can model and invite and engage and bring together and include as many coaches as possible with, good messaging and positive coaching and effective coaching, then I think that's an important thing. And the other thing Rob did is he invited me out to the AVCA convention.
Okay.
I'd gone to that, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years now. And that's a spectacular opportunity. And we've got a group of Massachusetts coaches that ranges from, 5 or 6 coaches all the way up to sometimes 20 coaches from little Massachusetts, where, I think nationally we're not renowned for the high quality volleyball necessarily coming out of Massachusetts, but we're working at it and our kids are getting better. And we got a group of people that seem to have a lot of fun together and are working hard to improve the game here. I mean, we did invent it here, so we might as well, be getting good at it.
That's true. I have been completely enjoying the ESPN Plus matches and coverage, and now ESPN2, the levelness of play right now. It just makes me so happy to see it, having been where it was so lopsided, kind of growing up and coming through all this. That was the case. And then you would get to the upper echelon, you would really find some competition, but it's starting way low down there. Lots and lots of teams. Do you see this same kind of thing in your high school there in Massachusetts as well?
Yeah, I think when I started, there were probably, 6 or 8, maybe, or even 4 or 5 really good teams in the state of Massachusetts. And now there are dozens and dozens. So the depth, the top teams have been good for a long time, but the depth of, the 20th best team or the 30th best team in the state, really being able to have some kids that can play volleyball is really neat. And I think it, each probably every 4 or 5 years, the depth improves again. I remember when I started, we ended up sneaking our way into the state semifinals in 2002 and ran into 2 kids with jump topspin serves. And my girls they just didn't, we never saw that. We just never saw kids jump serving back in the early 2000s here in Massachusetts. And so now, there's 12-year-olds just ripping jump serves all over the place. And so I think the growth of the game has been spectacular. I feel really lucky to have been a part of the game during this time, particularly because I think prior to my arrival in the 90s, there was a lot of hard battles that were fought by a lot of people. I think you were part of some of that. And we always celebrate the anniversary of Title IX in our program too. Yeah. Because, when I started, I asked the girls, how many of your moms got to play sports? And it was 1. Oh, and wow. Now when I ask the kids, it's all of them. And I just think that's magical. I just think the opportunities that have come along as a result of that and a lot of people's hard work has been really amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is so fun. Kids that have been playing now, their children are big time stars in a lot of programs.
For sure.
Let's talk a little bit about this year's championship. You made your way through that again and captured the 2024 volleyball championship there in Massachusetts. And you ran up in the final game. And I think I saw maybe 3-0 on the way to that bracket. And you're playing Oliver Ames.
Yep.
And the championship, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I kind of went back and looked at some of your stats and some things, and I was like, you're pretty good at serving. It seems as though you guys put a little focus on that, and maybe somewhere I read, Roger, 8 aces in a game is sort of your average. Is that true? That's really good. Maybe I'm making it up. I don't know, but
I'm not sure. We try to make the game as unexciting as possible. And, like if we can score, quick points by serving the ball really tough. we love it when our opponent is out of system. Yeah. And I think, the serve is a great way to start that off. And there's always this risk reward ratio, right? Like I think sometimes in the college game now, it's like painful when there's 3 or 4 missed serves in a row late in the match because they're really going for it. And they know if they do anything other than that, it's going to come thundering back at them. And, we try to figure out along the way who can do what and move things around and try to keep it as difficult for the opponent as possible. But we do spend a fair, we're serving every day in practice, serving and passing for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that, that made a difference. I thought Oliver Ames in the state finals actually passed very well. We thought we could take advantage of a couple things and they were a little bit ahead of what we hoped they would be. But in the end, it ended on an ace. So that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah, right. I think I saw that celebration. In your time as a coach, I know you're also in the area of wellness. Mm-hmm. How do you think that impacts your teaching, your coaching, and your way you are with your kids? How much does that impact how you are as a person with those young women and the guys in track?
Oh, sure. Yeah. The goal is the same for both, but the pathway is pretty different.
Yeah.
I think student athlete well-being is hugely important. And I think society, over the last little while is kind of getting it wrong with the tremendous focus they have on winning, especially in youth sports. Youth sports, we got to keep score because you want to be striving to win every point you play. However, the outcome of a youth match is completely irrelevant. And should be irrelevant. And, the trophies that the kids get are bigger than the ones we get when we win a state championship, and something's not right there. But student athlete well-being is really important, and the pressure that kids face. I think we do. One of my favorite parts of our season is student athlete parent night at the beginning, because I don't hold anything back. I let them absolutely know, what their role is, what our role is, and actually talk about how harming pressure from them can be. Kids put a ton of pressure on themselves, and it's the job of the rest of us to support them so that they can strive and chase their dreams. And so I think, well-being's a lot of it. And I think kids need skills. I think that, a lot of, managing my own wellness or managing our own wellness comes down to learning some skills that can really help you out. And certainly, there's a lot of experts out there that can help us out with that. And, especially when we need it. So yeah, there's a big focus on wellness in our program. It's a mindset that I bring in. We do, we're breathing at the beginning of practice each day, and we think that helps us be intentional and squeeze the most out of each practice that we can, both in terms of skill and joy. So I think it's a really important piece. And I think, with the professionalization of sports and maybe the professionalization of youth sports, we're not going in quite the right direction. But there's a lot of people that are going in the right direction, I think.
That's true.
And so I see it being, a huge difference. We haven't talked about it, but my daughter was a part of some of the things that I've been able to do. She played for me in volleyball, and seeing the impact that other people had on her development, other coaches had, being really, really positive has just been awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about Gwen for a second. She's a Division I athlete at Stony Brook University, and I believe a starter as a freshman. Is she middle? She's a middle blocker.
No, she's an outside
hitter.
Yep.
All right.
She, not to be too excited about it, but she made the all CAA rookie team. And so that was a big deal for her. She was really excited about that. I think the best part of that whole thing, she went to Stony Brook because it's a great school, and because Kristen Belzung is just a phenomenal human coach. I was a little bit picky about who I was going to send my daughter into whose hands for the next 4 years, but her coach there, Kristen Belzung, is just an awesome human and a fantastic coach. And I think at the beginning, no matter what you tell them, the transition to that Division I college game is really tough. And, she sent me a couple texts that said exhausted and overwhelmed. And I said, we put you in the right place, kid. And then I think she sent the same text to her mother and got a little bit more empathetic response. But, I think the thing that she appreciated the most was that, after the preseason and when she started to play, she felt accepted by her teammates. And, this group, there were some grad students in there and some upperclassmen, and she just worked so hard to earn their trust and play the best that she could. And there was definitely a learning curve, so that's been really fun to watch. So yeah,
Tears or no tears? Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely tears. Tears of joy for me watching who she's becoming, and tears for her because it's really, really hard work,
Yeah.
And, it's funny because you come from, you come from a lot of success, in high school and, certainly club. And then you get there and it's like every single player, every day, all day is really, really, really good. And you got to just sort of embrace that and work your way through it. So, it's been very positive.
Yeah, you mentioned that she chose it for academic reasons as well. And I think she might be choosing to go into a field similar to you.
I think she's done some coaching, with the club that she played for. And, but I think she wants to go into the medical field. She wants to, I think, maybe be a physician's assistant. We've had a ton of nurses come out of our program. Yeah. I think, we do have a big emphasis on servant leadership and, any of the fields, whether it's education or the medical fields or anything like that, I think are the kids that are attracted to our program and the kids that we draw sort of understand that that's what life's all about.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to leave Cole and Bryce out of this equation either, so that they feel like they were left out. But Tufts, I think, is a place where Cole's running some track. Same things as you when you were in college, or?
Oh, he's a much bigger dude than I was.
Okay.
I was a skinny little distance runner, and he's a decathlete. So
God.
He's in his senior year. He's a 2-time captain of the track and field program there at Tufts, and just a great role model, great young man, hard worker, kind of guy that other guys want to be around. He's a little more outgoing than I am, for sure, and he's just really thrived there at Tufts. I did go to Tufts, but
I did see that.
Yeah, he's coming out with he's coming out with an economics and psychology degree, and I don't know where that's going to lead him, but it'll be somewhere great. And then then there's little Bryce, my 8-year-old, who has been to a whole lot of volleyball matches and a whole bunch of track meets in his career, and just adores his older brother and sister. And so we're just really lucky to have that little guy bringing us joy every day in our lives.
Well, both of you and your wife, Beth, were Division III college athletes, and she was a rower. Now, That's a tough woman. I mean, and they got some muscles, because that's a tough sport.
I go back to, that first phone call I made when I got offered the volleyball coaching job was to my wife. And, throughout this whole thing, I think, for me, being able to coach doesn't happen without my wife's support. It takes a tremendous amount of support. And so we actually met coaching track.
Okay.
I was the boys track coach at another high school, and she became the girls coach. And that was a bit of a scandal partway through the season for some of our athletes when we started dating each other. And I actually proposed to her on a high school track where she was coaching at the time, so sports has been a big part of both of our lives. And she's an educator too. She teaches robotics here in our school system. And so she's probably a much better teacher than I am. She's outstanding. So I learn a lot every day.
Well, good. That's a good deal. So one of the things I had put in here that we were going to talk about is maybe some important lessons that you feel are high on your list to get across, as you mentioned, to your athletes, but also to the parents. Could you give us some examples of some of those things that you mention every year, or you bring up every year to kind of set things in motion in the right direction?
That's a great question. You got to cut right to the chase here and make sure I hit the bullseye.
Well, take your time.
No, I think, the philosophies of our program of the hard work and joy together. I don't know that society nowadays really celebrates that. I think people want to have fun and not work hard, maybe. And so the idea that if you're going to come with us, you're going to work really, really hard, but we're hopefully and probably going to have more fun than anybody else too. So that combination is really important to us. Being in service of others is really important to us. I think, when we talk about how you want to live your life, I think being intentional and present is like the greatest gift you can give yourself. So we tell them, if you come and you're intentional at volleyball practice and you're just focused on what you're doing here, you're building your muscle of intentionality. So that when you go to math class, or you're, going to if you're at church, or if you're going to wherever you're going, being fully present there, is the greatest gift you can give yourself and the people around you. And it makes for an awesome life. So I think intentionality is a big one for us. And I think language is important to us. The way we say things matters, framing things positively. John Kessel is a guy who's really picky about language, and I'm right lock in step with him.
Yeah.
Can't, but, don't, and try are sort of things we work hard to eliminate from our language. And then this idea that, why not go for it? Why not go for it? I think that's something that we espouse. And, we've had kids take big swings in big moments and miss. The state championship 4 years ago, we scored as many points as the team that beat us. We just didn't score them in the right moments.
Mm-hmm.
But we were up there taking a whack at it in the moment we needed to. And so, I'm super proud of those guys too. I think maybe messages for parents are very similar, and I hope that they recognize I'm not picking on them, but their job is to pick them up from practice and feed them and get them rested and get them to bed and bring them back the next day so we can push them really, really hard again.
Right.
I think, I would be remiss if I didn't mention there's really 3 words we talk about when we talk about our program priorities, and it's family, school, volleyball. That's the overarching order of operations for us. They know that if they don't take care of their family issues, that's not going to work out well for them. And academically, we're in school to be in school, and volleyball is a privilege. It's called an extracurricular for a reason.
Yeah.
And then they get to come to us, but everything else comes after that. So the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the other crazy stuff that kids do, that all comes after.
Number 4 on the list and down.
Exactly. We sort of laugh at ourselves about it.
The part about volleyball that I love the most is just how much it's important to have good team chemistry. And you gotta be dancing the dance with 6 people. It can get challenging at times. Somebody gets on the left foot and they're supposed to be on the right foot. But that part of this game, I absolutely love. I have certain years where we would do really well. And on those years, that team chemistry and bond was always good, but there were sometimes it was exceptional. Mm-hmm. When they would do things for and with each other, it just was the best feeling as a coach. And everything you've said so far pretty much that's what you're talking about with your players.
We're always trying to develop that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just the better team and, that things roll along. But I think back to 2017 when we won the state championship, we reverse swept our last 3 matches in the playoffs. And so other than a whole lot of people losing hair, I think some of the outcomes, all the parents in the stands are like, we're getting older by years, not days back here. And so, but their response, we talk a lot about, it's not what happens to us, it's how we respond. And, after going down 0-2 in the district finals, it's like, we look at each other and we kind of smile because we know we get the chance to play more volleyball, and we get another chance to be together. And so that group, it was pretty exciting to continually reverse sweep people. I didn't think we needed to do it that way, and I sort of encouraged them to cut it out. But their ability to just hang together and not worry about it and know what they needed to do and support each other through that. I think even earlier this year's team was pretty tight. They really hung together, and we graduated some very good players last year. So I don't think on the outside people expected us to come back and win again. But we were down at Barnstable, which is one of the perennial powerhouses in Massachusetts. Tom Turco's got 17 or 18 state championships, and he's won 6 in a row, which he reminded me of the other day. He said the bar is 6. But we went down to play them this year, and we won the first, they won the second, we won the third, they won the fourth. But at the end of the fourth, they took a nice swing and we just missed, scraping it off the floor. And then 2 of my players ran up to each other, jumping down excited because we get to play a game 5. And we often talk about the space between points is not for what just happens, it's for what's about to happen. So every time we get a space between points or space between games, we're looking forward and we're excited about the opportunity. And I think that can serve them well in life, right?
Yeah.
So bad stuff happens to everybody. Sometimes you get knocked down, sometimes you lose the game, sometimes you lose the match, but you get to wake up the next day and come back and hopefully learn from that and grow from it and recommit to each other. And so that moment when our kids were excited, and Tom's not going to like this, but we went up 12-2 in the 5th after that.
Oh gosh.
And the match was effectively done.
Yeah.
And it really was about, I think his kids got a little tentative and our kids got really excited. So it was a great early season lesson against a very, very well coached team. Mm-hmm. And so that that was sort of emblematic of how this group was like, yeah, you won the fourth set. We're just excited because we're going to get to keep playing volleyball today. And they kind of came into the gym that way most days. And it obviously, it went pretty well on the scoreboard. But I think they'll be able to look back at this year and know that they learned some things, but also, had a great time together with a pretty cool group of people.
Yeah, the mental part of the game, that you're describing, a lot of the mental toughness or the fortitude of staying in that right space is truly so important. You got to have the skills, number one, to play the game, but the differences show up in that mental aspect of the game.
Yeah. Can you play your best when it matters the most?
Yeah, there you go.
When it matters to you. Because, we think pressure is sort of self-imposed. So if it matters to you, true. That's the time we want you to really go out there and be able to do the very best that you can.
Yeah.
I think around the Dig Pink thing, I think I would just encourage everybody to just start. We raised more than we've ever raised this year. And I think it's basically because our web of influence keeps spreading, and our event is really special and fun. And so I think just anybody who wants to chip in and help out, I think it's just a great thing to do. And it has brought such value to what we do. It's taught us so much.
How's that web keep growing? How's your web keep growing? Like, what's going on?
Anybody who's ever been a part of our Dig Pink, whether they were a faculty member or somebody in the community who came, we just sort of keep a big, I don't know if it's a list of emails or whatever, but we just keep inviting everybody to come back. And because it's pretty special and we have a little ceremony at the beginning where we talk about what it's all about. We mention some of those that we've lost and honor those that are surviving and battling, and anybody in attendance, we give, some pink flowers to, and really turn it into a celebration. I think people enjoy seeing that and being a part of it. And then, everybody who comes, it's just shocking. We take, we say, we offer a $2 donation at the door if you want to, but people will drop big bills into that bucket because they're making, they know that it makes a difference. So I think just being inclusive of everybody and keep reaching out has sort of been what's worked well for us. Because I think we haven't been on a dramatic increase of how much we've raised, but each year it seems to be just a little bit more and a little bit more. And then we feel like we're making a difference. So I think that, and then, I think so many people in my life have had an impact on me, from my high school music teacher, Scott Campbell, to some of my coaches. And I just want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody. And I'm grateful that I've got the opportunity here in Westborough to influence young people's lives in hopefully a really positive way, and challenge them when they need to be challenged, but also lift them up at the end of the day, and give them some things that can help them, go out and make a difference in somebody else's life. I think that would be it.
Well, Roger Anderson, you are a special guy, and I think you qualify as one of those great coaches. It's been a pleasure to have you on today and for you to share this information with everybody. You are quite a volleyball coach and person with the positive influence on young kids and your school and your community there. So thank you for being on today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't know what you do in the off season for volleyball or track. You're coaching track now, right?
I've coached track for 30 years. So
oh wow, okay.
That's the other that's the other side of the coin. That's kind of like the fall, and then the spring we get to go do that. Got 120 guys on my track team every spring, and wow, we have a lot of fun. The weather's not as nice as it is in the gym in the fall.
Yeah, I was going to say, you get to be outside now.
I wear a lot more layers. Oh my goodness. The guys think I'm like a 7-layer bean burrito because I don't like to be cold. So I dress really warm, but no, it's a lot of fun. I look forward to some downtime with my family right now.
Yeah, sure.
And we'll get back to it, but it is really fun. And thank you. I've really appreciated, our relationship.
Yeah.
So thanks.
You are a good one.
You too.
Thank you for listening. Please share your feedback with us at side-out.org.